All right. Yeah, this is a kind of, I don't know, off the cuff. I haven't really got all of my notes together in the same place. I've got a lot of shiz, as it were. But I think potentially what I'll do is whiz through some sound bites, as it were, some food for thought, and then maybe I'll do a members only with like a lot more stuff. So that being said, I should turn on the live chat instead of the top chat because, like I say, off the cuff, last minute-ish. And hi, Martin, and let's get on with it, I suppose. Right, so yeah, when I say I don't have all the notes, like some of them are in my brain. So firstly, I guess we should consider what is evolution, what is Darwinianism, let's just make a start and wing it, as I say. Okay, so macroevolution is what we're going to be looking at. Microevolution is consistent with God's account of creation. Microevolution, in a nutshell, although potentially it wouldn't be in a nutshell. For example, viruses have an ability, an innate, if that's the right word for here, let's not get too sciencey, but it's an innate ability to become resistant to successive, consecutive even, strains of antibiotic which are designed to fight the same virus, and it just becomes adept at overcoming resistance. That's a form of microevolution. It evolves, as it were, into a stronger virus, able to withstand, probably jump tall buildings, etc. Another one is birds. Birds are often, over successive generations, observed, which is a key thing for evolution. It must be observable to adapt, for example, their beak shape or their, I don't know, their wingspan, potentially, like small features of the same bird, which remains the same, at least the same family, like the same bird, but they evolve into birds with smaller beaks, bigger beaks, longer beaks, whatever. Like, because this is not what we're focusing on. I do know stuff about it. I just don't know, like I'm taking a test and I haven't got my notes. So on the other end of the scale is macroevolution, which are changes so big as to be readily observable. A change of kind is what we're thinking of, a change of kind. So, for example, a fish evolving somehow into a human, a monkey evolving, changing ostensibly into, like through successive generations, of course, a human being. As Christians, I may get onto theological evolution at some point, but as Christians reading the Bible and interpreting it as factual, we do not see case at all whatsoever for lower life forms. I saw any SJWs commenting. I don't mean they're of less value. Well, I mean, there is no case to be made for some microscopic blob of bacteria evolving into life as we know it within the biblical account of creation and God's subsequent comments, as it were, on matter. So, because I have some notes on the computer and some here, Darwinianism, I just don't want to get this like incorrect, I guess. So Darwin himself, Charles, was a naturalist, a British naturalist. That's not to be confused like with the modern usage. It's not a nudist. He studied nature. I don't know what he did in his spare time, actually. He first proposed a scientific theory of how life could have evolved, because, of course, theory suggests that it's a hypothesis, and it's because it's scientific, it's awaiting disproval or, rebuttal. So he spent 5 years traveling aboard Her Majesty's ship Beagle, studying different adaptive patterns within just nature, as it were. And what he observed, the changes and adaptations he observed whilst on this 5 year jolly, as it were, or jaunt, his conclusion was that all life might have originated from one microscopic source, an original microscopic source. And his theory, his landmark theory, the origin of the species, was published, or I don't know, made public, I guess, in 1859. So we're talking what, 163 years. My maths may be utterly irrelevant at this stage. A while back, but not that far back, because prior to that, I guess science didn't have a stronger hold as it does at the moment. So although he was raised in the church, the Anglican Church, the Church of England, he studied even to become a member of the clergy. Like, you may have seen his image, his face on posters claiming that it says atheism, good enough for these idiots. And it's all these like pretty well-educated people who most of them are not atheists. It's believed that he died agnostic, is like a safer bet than atheist for sure, because there are some comments of his that don't seem to marry up with that at all. So Darwinism, let's just have a cursory glance, and then we're going to get on to refuting macroevolution. So his theory of evolution is this even. So this is the 21st century version, states that all forms of life evolved from one original speck of microscopic bacteria. They do multiply pretty quickly, but they're just multiplying. They're not becoming cats and starfish and seahorses and all sorts. But like, don't take my word for it. Let's look into it. Oh, well, you can take God's word for it if you like. So, all right, speck of bacteria, yeah? Picture the scene, a very tiny scene, and you've got a microscope at this point. And then the evolutionary process that produced such life was not guided by any overseeing or overarching or divine power. So that's pretty important. He's not arguing intelligent design in like any shape or form. Utterly random is what we can logically infer from the fact that he says it's random. God doesn't work in randoms because he is a designer and an architect and a knower of all things. So he coined the phrase natural selection and survival of the fittest. I assume you've heard of those if you're English speakers, to describe how he believed evolution occurred, because he didn't know how his theoretical musings may have occurred, because he was a scientist, and science is supposed to be replicable and observable. Replicable mostly in a laboratory, depending on what you're trying to ascertain as a theory, as it were. Anywho, survival of the fittest, natural selection, to describe how he believed evolution occurred, and he taught that every species of life, in order to survive, was compelled to evolve and adapt. Nature singled out for extinction, he believed, those species that were not able to evolve or adapt, like hence the compelling part, and selected, which sounds to me like some sort of intelligence behind it, but it's really not, selected for survival those that were able to adapt, overcome, strive, I don't know, whatever they're supposed to be doing there. So the phrases singled out and selected may, like they just did with me, imply, if not a divine power, but an overseeing, pretty darn powerful power, like as a guide to this process at least. They're not supposed to, like, it's just a kink of language, as it were. So Darwinism as a theory stands firmly within the belief that the work done in nature through evolution was utterly random, completely accidental, actually, and accidentally resulted in all life forms that we see today. Seems legit, you may say, buckle up. And that includes humans, obviously. So many scientists believe that Darwin's theory is a satisfactory explanation of how life came to begin, and equally important, or very much more important for their souls, but that there is no need for the existence of a divine character figure whatsoever in the start, continuation, and like ending of various species. So that's what I have there. Now let's just get on with debunking this shiz. Hi Chris, hi Andrew, Jonathan, Pentecost, Tommy, Chloe. That's all I can see. I'm so sorry on the screen. Everybody, even. Right, let's have a butcher's, as we say in London. Okay. Timothy, guard what has been entrusted to your care. Turn away from godless chatter and the opposing ideas of what is falsely called science. That's a Bible quote from 1 Timothy 6:20. So the phrase science, falsely so called, or, you know, however, yeah, falsely called science. It depends if you're KJV or not. Within that verse, would, I mean, it utterly does apply to evolution, which is the science, like it's a scientific theory and is contraindicative. It goes against what God says, so therefore false. Right, let's have a look. There shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lusts and saying, where is the promise of his coming? But since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation. So you catch that one. All things continue as they were from the beginning. For this they willingly are ignorant of the world that then was, being overflowed with water, perished, e.g. the flood. So to be willingly ignorant, I guess, like in a more modern sense, we would say willfully ignorant, implies that something is known, but that you are like persistently or knowingly rejecting that known, I won't say fact, because you may not believe it to be true. Either way, you're willfully ignoring it, potentially not giving it any serious consideration. So they know of the flood, like they knew about it. But they close their minds to an honest, integrative, investigative, search for knowledge about it. And we can go into that another time, because I know that Bob has an interesting little theory to go with the other ones he's racking up. Either way, let's get on to the science. Righty-ho. No one has ever observed evolution. And every time I say evolution, henceforth, going forward, as it were, I mean to say macroevolution. So there is no transitional fossils, which is pretty interesting. Like archaeologically, there's no like stage 2 fossils to be found. There's no like in the middle of changing. There's no like, oh, the fins have dropped off and now they've got whiskers and there's a tin of kitty cat there. Nothing like that. Evolution has either to be drawn, illustrated, or animated. You may notice that anything, I guess you may be thinking of the kind of monkey, through the Australopithecus and the Cro-Magnon man and the yada yada to some dude in a suit. I think that's Fatboy Slim. But whatever, that picture of like them, standing upright, etc. But that's wow, you heard it here first. It's not a photograph. But yeah, there are no like even observation with the eyeball, but things must be created to illustrate points, literally illustrate the points, which means that it's only true philosophically within a virtual world, like if I'm not getting too metaphysical already, or somebody's imagination, or the imagination of a man who died long ago, having woken up in cold sweats over this theory that weren't, that hadn't been at the time, to his satisfaction, Darwin's proven by any means. Excuse me. That's out of the way. That's that part. There are, of course, like I said, sound bites. The human body, the system of the human body proves in itself, so we're like, I guess, a microcosm, like a small snapshot picture of some pretty wondrous and fearfully made processes. But the human nervous system, body system, proves evolution to be false. So there are 10 within us, there are 10 interdependent. They don't rely on, like, they are functioning alone, as it were, side by side, systems that exist within us. That's factual, that's observed, that's, that's a scientific fact. All of them, all of these 10, excuse me, all of the 10 cannot function unless the other 9 are already functioning. Like, try and get your head around that little conundrum for a hot second, and then try to answer the question, which of those developed first? If we came from bacteria, like, it's a pretty, like, statistically or mathematically, it's to the power of 10. Like, it's a big number, like the possibility or probability of them all, wow, or 9 at least, I guess, just spontaneously, like, coming into existence, evolving into their current form, and all, like, the prime optimum circumstances for the other one to also pop up and start working is like that. I think that's a mathematical term anyway. How would any of them start on their own? They couldn't, but they are they're interdependent in as much as in order to work. So that's another thing you might want to get your little nut around, as it were. The other thing, I guess, is in that picture that I just, like, even descriptively butchered for you all. There's a chimpanzee, because now I'm looking at it. There's a kind of like upright chimp. He hasn't got much hair on his arms, bless him. Looks a bit depressed. There's another guy, like monkey, who's a bit taller, a couple of little cavemen. And then there's like a naked guy. He's fully evolved, as it were, but not to Top Shop or Top Man or any other stores that are available for gentlemen. The point I'm getting to is there are millions of chimpanzees around. I hope there's millions of them. Like, who knows? Someone might comment there's 73 left in the jungle somewhere and 2 in the zoo. Either way, lots and lots of them. And there are billions of humans, lots of humans. Too many, some might say, on a Monday morning. I digress. The point is, all the other 4, like, progressively taller, weirder looking, like, mid-range guys, where are they all? Where are the millions of those guys? Because it's not like a straight line evolution from one to the other, because we still have the first guy, the chimp. So where are the others? That's just a question, I guess. That's one of those. Let me just okay Jordan's comment, because I don't seem to have any admins. But let's carry on even without them. God bless their little cotton socks. Right. Flood. Let's think about the flood for a second. The majority of aquatic life would not have to reach the surface in order to obtain oxygen, i.e. survive, if that's part of their necessities of life for them. I know when I was a kid, when I learned, like, the biggest animal, like, I don't know which sperm whale, I guess, or whatever it was. And I remember thinking, like, I was even a little polemicist then. I thought, well, I've got it. And I, like, demanded the answer from my mum, I think it was. So, yeah, it was. Saying, well, where did they go? How did Noah fit 2 of those on this tiny little boat in the cartoon picture in the children's Bible? I don't think I said that bit. And she just said they stayed in the sea. And I was like, yeah, obviously. But yeah, James, I can't even okay your question, because one, I don't know why you're talking about that stuff. But I'm coming to you. But let me just stay with my notes on the screen, please. Bye. Either way, this flood, this global flood, Bob, this flood, stuff in the sea, getting on with their lives, having a whale of a time. I'm here a week. They would be expected to be buried in the same. I know the word for it. I know the posh word for it, because So I was looking at anyway, the same strata, like the same order, the same level even in the water in which they lived, because you get the ones right at the bottom. Some of them got disco lights, like David Attenborough is always like quite excited. You know, like there are different some of them, if you brought them to the surface, they would just explode because they're used to like I don't know. I'm really not an aquatic, whatever you call them. I don't even know what they are. Marine biologist. I'm not. However, they should have been, like, if they were, gosh, what's the word? Condensed in order. That's not the word. In the order in which they lived should have been the order in which we find evidence of them. And that is what we observe, right? You're with me so far. Evolution supposes that evolved aquatic life evolved, that it wasn't all there at the same time. Therefore, how can it have been compressed into the like soil, as it were? I don't even know if they have what Marianne Trench. I don't know. I'm just digging now. But the point is, they're all evidenced, like, because of the depth of the oceans which they relate to. But there's no evolution between them. Like they're all interdependent, independent species. Anywho, that would have had to all happen at the exact same time, also, like some sort of world, like cataclysmic event, like a flood, you may say. I got a little picture, but I can't show you it. Doesn't make it any clearer because I don't have my glasses on. So that's also great. We're getting there, kids. We're getting there. So why do evolutionists have a population problem? In the beginning, as it were, one male, one female. This is evolution we're talking. Assume that they, I won't say marry because it's atheistic. Assume they hook up, have kids, their kids marry each other, I guess. Their kids get married at least, have their own kids, keeps going on and on. The population may double every 150 years, like once it hits a certain number, of course. That growth rate is conservative. Like I say, obviously 2 people can multiply into 4 people very quickly. That's a doubling of the population, but we're talking at a later date. In real life, as I like to call it, on those same Monday mornings, disease, famine, natural disaster, the world population, as we see it now, which granted is a rather different number, doubles every 40 years or so. And that's like a lot. That's a lot. Let me just put it that way. After 32 doublings, or increases of 100% each time, that would take like 4,800 years. The world population would have reached almost 8.6 billion. And that's 2 billion more people than the current population that we have, which is around 6.5. So just mathematically, that calculation shows that starting with Adam and Eve, actually, and assuming conservative growth, the current population can be reached within 6,000 years if you're a young earther. You're welcome. There you go. At the ranch, even evolutionists tell us that humans have been around for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years, because they include within their humanity, like their broad definition of humanity, I don't know, like what's the word for them? Pre-Adam people, I guess, is the best one. If we did assume that humans have been around for, say, like 50,000 years, and if we were to use the conservative estimates that I just told you, the population after that short time would be this. And I'm going to have to read it out because I don't know what that number is. I know how to say it in mathematical notation, but I'm just going to go for it here. It would be 10 Thousand, 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 thousand. Take a breath. Thousand, 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 thousand. So basically 1 with 100 zeros after it. I mean, you can ask them to chat about that if you want, evolutionists, but find a better way to set a number. Put some powers of 10 in there. So then there's the, I don't know how to say this. Are you joking? The coelacanth fish. This was proposed to be a transitional form with half-formed legs, like primitive lungs, ready to transition into land living, as it were, as opposed to aquatic. December 1938, the myth was kind of like a, what's the word? Encumbered, when a live coelacanth fish was caught in a fisherman's net off of the eastern coast of South Africa, I'm reading. But it's now known that the natives of the Comoro Islands had been catching and eating these fish for some time, years, and it didn't have half-formed legs or primitive lungs. It was just a regular fish that people thought were extinct. Just as an aside, you might not believe me, but it's actually the case. I can't remember the guy's name. There was a guy who's, I think at least 30 years he spent studying fish. And his conclusion, at the end, I don't know how much money was put into the research, and I guess he did more than just like the one sentence that I'm going to give you that was his conclusion. His academic conclusion is there is no such thing as fish. And there you have it. No, the reason is because they're so very different, like just living in the water, just not being a mammal, being a fish, as it were. Some are more closely related to land animals than they are to other fish. Just throw that out there because I also watch QI. Anywho, yeah, evolutionists at the time claimed 350 million year old coelacanth evolved into animals with legs, feet, and lungs. In actual fact, you know that thing of you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. In actual fact, the coelacanth is like a brilliant testimony or witness against evolution, the falsity of it, like, yeah, against the veracity of it even. After 350 million years, that fish just doesn't have a leg to stand on. Right, or any lungs. Right. We're past halfway, I reckon. The universe is slowing down to a lower state, not a higher one. The genes of animals, humans, insects, plants are continually becoming defective and not improving. And if anyone remembers any kind of secondary school, high school, I guess, science, it's not in the notes, but it's entropy. Things naturally progress towards decay as opposed to, you know, improving at a structural level, I guess. So species are becoming extinct. They have many species have become extinct. They're not evolving, that's for sure. They are becoming extinct. It was supposed to be evolve or go extinct, but we only see the extinction. Order always moves into chaos. I can use my housework as testimony for that, if you like, but like just things become more disordered. They don't become more ordered without human or divine intervention. I just got depressed about my housework. So, the second law of thermodynamics is kind of the converse of that. It's that order cannot flow from chaos. Complex live, like real-time organisms cannot rearrange themselves into an organism of a higher form, as evolutionists claim. They may claim, I may claim I've won the lottery. I haven't. So it's scientifically backwards. You see, it contradicts the second law of thermodynamics, which I've got no reason to disbelieve. Just because it's scientific doesn't mean it's false. It's just if it's false, it means it's false. It's never been proven wrong anyway. So that's the benchmark of a good scientific theory. Okay. The usual evolutionary picture, or like snapshot, I guess, has men existing as hunters, hunter-gatherers even, just for the CV purposes, for about 185,000 years during the Stone Age before discovering, like the agricultural revolution, I guess you could call it, less than 10,000 years ago. Archaeological evidence shows that Stone Age men were as intelligent, is that the right way to put it? Yes, as intelligent as we are. It's improbable, it's very improbable actually, that none of the 8 billion people should discover that plants grow from seeds. Like it just agriculturally, like that doesn't really work as just on a probability level. According to evolutionists, Homo sapien, Stone Age Homo sapien at least, like us, as it were, for them. For the other us, who knows, existed 190,000 years before beginning to use written records around 4,000 to 5,000 years ago. I was reading this morning about an ancient little curse that seems, because with carbon dating, etc. I don't think it's been done yet, but the sedimentary level on which it was found dates it to potentially, I think it was 4,000 years to 3,000 something ago, but then they're not releasing it yet, the actual data, but it's potentially the first recorded instance in Hebrew of the name of God. And I have a picture of that somewhere, but not the actual, it's a teensy curse. And I was like, oh, even back in the day, like the comment section on a tiny hill. Anyhow, where was I? Yeah, beginning to write things down about 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, and prehistoric man built megalithic monuments. You may have seen them in England, Salisbury Plains, etc. Stonehenge, you might think of it as. They made like cave paintings, and they kept records of the phases of the moon. Why would you wait another 2,000 years to use your artistic and obvious like left brain, I guess, activity, and right, before you start keeping written records, like a pictorial, like why? It's just one of those questions that evolutionists may, I guess they'd say they evolved into it, but they're the same Homo sapien, Stone Age Homo sapien. Get in there, bro, get in there. Right, Homo sapiens, you know them, I know them, we love them. The evolutionists say that they existed for at least 185,000 years before the agriculture began, which I just mentioned in the last point, when the world population was roughly between 1 and 10. That is very roughly, obviously, 1 and 10 million. All that time, they were burying their deceased, I say loved ones, but if they're like us, they may not have really cared for them at all. Like, glad they're gone. Get their hands on the tiny paintbrushes for the cave, whatever, I digress. But they not only buried them or interred them, they buried them with, or often with, if they had enough bartering stuff, with artifacts, with their belongings, with their like cherished possessions, etc. Within that scenario, they should have buried around 8 million bodies. Conservative, let's stay low. If the evolutionary timescale is correct, buried bones should be able to last for much longer than 200,000 years. So many of these alleged, I guess, 8 billion Stone Age skeletons should still be around, and certainly the artifact should be, regardless of how long calcium or like bone material can last. We've only found a few thousand. Granted, we're not every day out digging. English people have got stuff to do as well, but like it's a massive inconsistency to ponder. And then I guess I just say something on like the evolutionary certainty that the age of the Earth is not. It's one of those things. Like I am not a young Earther necessarily. No, I'm not. Because of the Bible, like because of the case I can make. However, in 1770, this is evidence of microevolution, I suppose. In 1770, they thought the Earth was 70,000 years old. In 1905, they said it was 2 billion years old. Now, bearing in mind, like the cocksure, arrogant, sort of smug nature of, like, I can imagine them making these proclamations. They were certain, like, they weren't just going, oh, I don't know, about 2 billion. No, if there's like a year attached to it, they came out and they go, you know what, or whatever they said. 1905, they said it's 2 billion years old. They said, suck it up, get an helmet, whatever they said to the people who went, what? 64 short years later, in 1969, you may remember the moon. I don't want to get into conspiracy. The moon landings. They brought back some rock, and they said, oh, they're 3.5 billion years old. And then that became the official age, 3.5 billion. And today, which is only another, 53 years later, as it were, it's now 4.6 billion. So, like, who knows how old it will really be, like within 20 short years. Not 4.6 billion and 20. It's one of those scenarios. So, I mean, let's think about this. I guess all of those points together really refute evolution in the sense of its foundation is not science. Like it's like I briefly alluded to at the beginning. Darwin himself admitted to waking up in cold sweats because the human eye and the duck-billed platypus were two things he mentioned that he could not fit into his theory, and that literally woke him up in sweats. He also, I think, there are quotes that are attributed to, I don't know, Einstein that are just so not, but he did, Darwin, intimate that if his theory hadn't been proven within a century, to just bin it off, bruv. He didn't put it like that. He said, get rid of it. So, evolution is just the best alternative anyone's come up with who is rejecting the supernatural, i.e. divine origin of the universe. The Bible does say that nature is evidence of divinity, like of a creator, of God, and that no one's going to be, no one's going to have a leg to stand on, an excuse even come judgment day. No one's going to have a leg to stand anyway. Everyone's going to be kneeling and confessing. But, those are things to ponder for you anyway. And now I'm back in the chat because, like I say, I may just do a fuller version of that with notes and organisational skills for the members. But anywho, all right, John. Any questions? Please don't go. I didn't do combined sciences. That's the problem. I did physics. So this is more. I did watch I think I played it with you all, and then university macrobiologists being interviewed by Ray Comfort, and he just repeatedly asked them, can you show me a change of kind? Can you show me a change of kind? And all they kept doing, like they spoke about bacteria, and he was like, what did it turn into? And the guy was like, oh, other bacteria. It's not a change in species. Like it's not about small microevolutionary processes. That's not, Christians are not, or people who believe in creationism are not arguing against that, for sure. Like, you know, over hundreds, thousands, whatever it is of years, fish may decide like a different kind of shaped fin is gonna like really do it for them. They're not like, however long you leave a cat having babies and grandchildren, like it's never going to turn into a fish just because it's in a bathtub, as it were. That's just silly. So yeah. I'm going to read that comment out. That's so silly. I have Islam in my life. I have great fun, like polemicizing it. Steve, watch your fam. Hope you're enjoying yourself. Yeah, so any points other than the wishful thinking? Never going to happen isms. Yeah, I don't mind. I have, Jonathan. Sorry, are you talking to me, my love? Let me know if you are, because I don't know if you're just answering someone from like proceeding. Hello, Coventry punks. You right, love? You're speaking to me. Yeah, I used to be yeah. Jonathan, I want to ask you a couple of questions actually, but I used to be a theological evolutionist, so I do know what I'm speaking about. Thanks very much. And Jonathan, do you have a faith? Like, do you have a soundbite, catchphrase, headline that describes your worldview? If you could just answer on a postcard, i.e. in the live chat, that would help me, because when I'm answering questions with you, which I love to do, like I'd like to know how best to describe and approach them. Coventry punks, did you have something to say, sir / madam? I'm not really sure. Yeah, I'm also the watchman. The watchman. Sorry. Yeah, I also like logical stuff, Yahweh, you know, good things in life, theology, etc. And I'm not. Well, I don't want to say that. I'm gonna be nice. It's nice to be nice. But yeah, Jonathan, any answer to that, babes? Okay, so Coventry punks. Is that a we are or a were? I'm going to read it as it says. We're the Adam and Eve we're the Adam and Eve mentioned when they were kicked out of Eden. They were mentioned before they were kicked out and after they were kicked out. Anyway, he says the Neanderthals and Denisovans. I disagree. So that's that. I don't believe that God looked around the garden and said it is good. I don't believe there was a Mark 1 Adam and then like before that a Mark 0.5 that evolved into what was then good, because it started off good. Were the others worthy? Are you asking me, were Adam and Eve like Neanderthal? Yeah, I don't believe it. I mean, it wouldn't, if it came to pass, like when I finally get to, I don't know, get there and ask questions from the source of all truth, you know, mankind had the ability for, well, pretty silly decision-making skills, I guess, in the garden, but the ability to be reasoned with, to recognise the divinity of God, like made perfectly without sin, but with free will, which is, of course, like vital. I don't believe from modern portrayals of cavemen with no linguistic abilities, with very prehensile like hands, with a different stature. You know, if those images were allegedly transposed into Eden, that means that, I mean, I don't believe the 6 days of creation are like, you know, Monday to Saturday, as it were, but even so, God would just be sitting around, well, I don't know, he's finished creation, and then he's just got to wait for these chimps that he's made to evolve into another chance to record. Like, no, it didn't work like that. No, he made Adam, and then, yeah, no, it didn't happen like that. So anyway, and then there's no evolution mentioned. There's Nephilim mentioned. That's a kind of like introduction of a secondary species, as it were. There are angels mentioned, so really a tertiary species. There are, what else? Where was I going with that? The only true Christian evolution, or the only real macro evolution, is when somebody is saved. When somebody receives the Holy Spirit, they become, Paul tells us, a new creation. And therefore, one species has technically become a new species. Oh yeah, all right, I've cracked it. Yeah, okay, that all right, okay. So evolution in that very specific sense is true. However, other forms of macro evolution that involve artists, like easels, people sitting there for 1,000 years trying to catch like a chicken evolving into the, I don't know, a pedestrian crossing or whatever it is. No, that doesn't, that's not a thing. Sorry to disappoint you. And I do very well understand theistic evolution. And I'm like, it's not a hill I'm going to die on. However, you know, that's absolutely incorrect, Jonathan. Sorry, my love. Have you told me your belief system yet? Sorry, did I miss it? Spirituality and biology have very much to do with each other. Human beings are spiritual and biological in nature. So that's the point of reference that you want to start from. We're talking about the evolution / creation, depending on your vantage point, of humans. We have a spirit. We have a body. I mean, we are a spirit that has a body, if you see what I mean. We're not bodies with spirits, we're spirits clothed in flesh. But I mean, however you choose to see it, you can't, like an inanimate, like a dead body, what's missing from the dead body, as opposed to just before it died? It's the spirit, the spark, the life force. It doesn't really matter what you want to call it. It's a spiritual pursuit to discuss that life force, spark, soul, spirit, or whatever it is. You tell me, Jonathan. You just told me that spirituality has nothing to do with biology. And could you please answer my question now? What's your belief system? Like, do you have one? Is it got a name? Because I'd like to know. Because I've been answering questions for ages, so I wouldn't mind if you like answered mine, please. Thank you. I don't know what you're going on about. Israelite 22. Genuinely, I only saw the last bit of the sentence, but it doesn't sound very like evolutionary / counter evidential. Jane, how do you know? But yeah, all right, I'll wait for him to answer anyway. Yeah, and what energy can do, just picking up on Cherokee's point, it can only be transferred. It can't be created or destroyed, according to science. But again, science is only a theory. Even the statement, science is truth, cannot be scientifically proven. It's a philosophical claim. Like, and if you want to say philosophy has nothing to do with science, then like, how do you describe this? Like, you know, everything is interwoven because there are intricacies and nuances and like you know, harmonics, as it were, in life as well as in the scripture. God, mine. I know who Thor is. I know Chris Hemsworth is. No, I know about Thursday and stuff like that. Yeah, I got it. Thanks, Jane. I love Marvel. Now you mentioned it, and I like Norse mythology. So check on the I know who Thor is, but I don't know if Jonathan. Like, come on, stop mucking about. Spirit and soul are different according to scripture because the let's just see what you're saying there, Mama Janice. Okay, yeah, well, the Bible also, like a double-edged sword sharp enough to cleave spirit from soul, marrow from bone and stuff like that. Jamie, you silly boy. Okay, anywho, just thought I'd come on and tell you all that. That's about the size of it, really. I got I will do it probably I'll do it tomorrow, a video. I just wanted to do a little critique of the Will Smith incident. It is my remit. I thought it wasn't. I would have done it anyway, but then I listened to some of his comments, and some divine and spiritual realities were mentioned, or entities were mentioned, but that has nothing to do with having a body. I'm really joking. You reckon? Jane, you're very welcome, Jordan. Thanks for the hint. I am going, I promise. Cherokee's always right. Just read her comments, everyone. And if you catch this like on the same day that I recorded it, you won't see her comments until tomorrow because it takes a while for the live chat to process. But buckle up, she knows what she's talking about. John, I'm not so sure, to be honest, but I'll come back to you in the video. Really, I guess it wasn't about that. I just want to. I was heckling, just sitting by myself, listening to the like stuff being said, and I was like, I'm going to heckle on camera because it's just too silly. I stopped it in case I spoiled my like air of surprise when I do it, because what a no, it's not even illegal to slap a comedian for making jokes. It's illegal to slap somebody. That's it, like full stop. Bearing in mind the fact that it's beamed all around the world and people care and like stuff like that. Hi, Phillips. Yeah, it's just, yeah. I will talk about it, John, tomorrow when I make a vid. I don't know if I'll live stream it. Yeah, I can do actually. They are actors, but are they good enough actors to make it look like? I don't know. I'm pretty surprised. I don't know. It's one thing to be marching up there like if you're really good at slap someone, but it's another thing to be just. I mean, professionalism of Chris Rock, I guess, should be commended, because that's the kind of incident where you'd be fully forgiven for just banging them out, like just instinctually. But you know, all right, I'm going to press the button because I'm talking about banging people out by instinct. It's not really a Christian kind of topic, but it's obviously it's forgivable. It's not blasphemy of the spirit, but I mean to say like it can be a knee jerk, as it were. Abstract illusion. Good to see you too. That guy in it, but the people reading your comment haven't seen the size of you, bruv. So it's kind of redundant. Bring a camera and a step ladder. Watch out. Right, anyhow, yeah, I haven't pressed it. What a fibber. I've just put the cursor on it and then was about to carry on waffling. Shocking. It is absolutely shocking. But it is a blessing to be able to speak for so long, because it wasn't always the case. And God deemed it necessary for me to have a big mouth, because I came along when Bob left before Bob came along when Jay Smith left. There's obviously a need, God feels, for big mouth chatters in the park. You're very welcome, John McDermott. It's always a pleasure. By the time I finish the stream, I don't even mean it like that. It's always a pleasure. Sometimes beforehand, I'm like, oh, get quite dramatic. But it's all nonsense. It's like Satan can just jog at this point, because the wicked do run when nobody is pursuing them. That's what the Bible says. So fact. Bruce 6, I'm so sorry, babes. Hi, but bye. Now I feel bad for pressing the button. I'm going to do it. Right, God bless you all, and I'll see you soon. I'll potentially edit this video down to just the snazzy shiz, as it were, and stick it on the other channel. Jeff, I'm so sorry, babes. Oh, I'm repentant. It's all my favourite people. Not that the rest of you are not, like, obviously up the top there. But oh no, I feel really bad. Unless you've just been watching in the background. Oh shoot. Fiddlesticks and other really ineffectual, like fake cuss words. Sorry, people. I got like a big assignment that I've got to studiously ignore whilst watching YouTube and just doing not much. No, I also have like real life stuff to do. Sorry, but I'm back and I'll definitely be clipping this video down now because I feel like I'm on the phone. All right, bye, bye, bye. No. Okay. Oh, really? No. Okay, bye then. Blessings. I'll see you later, lovies.